Heh. What is up, YouTube land? I hope everything is comfy where you are. Right now when we're recording, there is a pretty big snow, especially for where we live in Pennsylvania, pretty big snowstorm. I was just outside, and it's got to be a solid 7-8 inches already, and it's still coming, so I feel like they can never quite... Everyone knew this was coming, but they were like, 5-6 inches, and it's like 7-8 already, and it's still coming, so it's like...
Yeah, it's so weird.
But that's comfy. Very comfy. What's not going to be comfy is shoveling tomorrow. Although it's the very... if you live in a cold climate... All of her stuff is gone. If you live in a cold climate, you know that there's different types of snow, as weird as that sounds. And this is the very light, fluffy kind, which is a heck of a lot easier to shovel.
Oh, that's nice.
Than like the really wet, heavy, nasty stuff. So yeah, this is the stuff that I think if you were going skiing, you would like be in love with. It's that powdery stuff.
Okay, O2. I think it's O2 4466 if I remember. Yeah, so we're doing the basically the Dollhouse repeat. And again, this would be a lot cooler if it was just a new place and wasn't the exact same thing again. Obviously, it's I
think it was O2.
Yeah. Obviously, it's different puzzles, but considering that it's the same environment, they do the same thing where they get rid of all your weapons again. And just recycle so much stuff from the main game. It's a lot lamer than it could have been.
Yeah. No, 100%. I
think there's a lot of things to like about this DLC in terms of, like, you know, it's not... They can't, like, make a game like this as, like, a main, like, AAA, like, retail game. But, you know, for a DLC, making a lot more slower paced and more horror-focused, more puzzle-solvey is a cool idea. But... since everything is just... It has so little budget, they can't even animate that. That's how...
I don't think I ever realized that the first time, or I just didn't pay attention to it.
But you can really tell that... I mean, this DLC came out 18 months after the main game, but there's no way they put 18 months into it. I would say that they put, like, 6 months max into this. I think they really had absolutely no plans, and then everyone was like, "Where's the Village DLC? Where's the Village DLC?"
They were like,
And then like a year later,
right up.
yeah, like a year later, they were like, "Sure, we're doing it."
Yeah.
That's why it took so long.
Yeah.
Okay, what do I do now?
That makes sense. You know, it is tough. I will say
So you want me to play with dolls?
if you come out with a DLC too fast, like a month after release, people get mad because they're like, this should have been part of the game. You know what I mean? Which is valid. And if you wait too long, then it is completely irrelevant because I think this is with all media, to be honest with you, but with video games in particular, people are like so ready to move on to the next thing, whatever it is. With a few mainstays like your Grand Theft Auto 5 and your Fortnite and whatever.
Someone really went all out.
But, like, I cannot tell you how often, especially back in, like, the 360 era, when, you know, someone would get a game and they would, like, beat it as fast as they could and they'd be like, done, trade it in next. You know, they're, like, really quick for that. So, I actually thought about that. Do you remember the Bioshock Infinite DLC? Kind of infamous DLC, Burial at Sea. That one ended up coming out.
Was it infamous? I thought it was good.
It was not super what people wanted, but it
okay.
also came out, like, it got delayed a lot. So it came out, like, a year or maybe more after the game came out. And it just didn't have the biggest hit that it would have, you know, if it came out, like, a couple months after. It's really tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, I get it.
Talk about Infinite, because we never talk about the game. I'm going to make an enemy right now. I think Bioshock Infinite is, like, the most overrated game, like, ever. I think it's just the most... It's a very generic corridor shooter, especially coming from Bioshock, like, 1 and 2, which I think are good games. Infinite streamlines everything. It's like 2 weapon limit, just like every COD in existence. Obviously, it has like a cool setting, but the gameplay is like just so meh.
I will say, in the over 10 years since the game was released, at time of release, the general sentiment was Bioshock 1, extremely good / masterpiece. Bioshock 2, extremely average. Bioshock Infinite, another masterpiece. And over the course of time, the general consensus I've seen is Bioshock 1, people keep it as masterpiece. Bioshock 2 has gotten much higher in the public consciousness.
I've always liked Bioshock 2.
A lot of people kind of look at Bioshock 2 as the best overall game. Maybe not necessarily the best story, but the best overall gameplay. And over the course of time, Bioshock Infinite has actually been downplayed a lot.
Well, that's good.
People aren't out there saying Bioshock Infinite's a bad game, but they're not like, you know what, this thing has a lot of problems.
I think a lot of people were kind of just like starstruck by the plot, which, if you analyze it, the plot doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But it's, you know, it's going for like the multiverse, like multi-timeline sort of thing.
I hate multiverse stuff so much.
And whenever you do like time travel plots, like there's no way to do a plot that makes any consistent sense if you apply any logic to it. So stuff like that doesn't really bother me too much. But I think that a lot of people are like, oh, this is the game that... I think people were desperate for like video games to be treated seriously as like an art form. And I think people really latched on to like Bioshock Infinite, which I always thought was really funny because Bioshock Infinite has like the most like generic like dude bro cover. It's just like it's I forget his name.
Booker Washington, I think.
Booker.
No, that's not right.
I think it's Booker.
DeWitt.
It's Booker with like a sawed-off shotgun slung over his shoulder. It's the most generic thing ever.
It could literally be like it could have been like Battlefield 3. You know what I mean? Like it was pretty dang generic. If you get these wrong, does just nothing happen?
Nothing happens.
Can you not even like put them on there?
You can. I guess I'll do it. You can tell that it's wrong because it just doesn't line up right.
It just doesn't look right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's weird. Not that I would expect it to be a fail state, but I don't know if it would. You know, in some games they're like, nope, that's not right. Nope, that's not right. You know, kind of.
Yeah,
thing.
if it like hurt you.
Whee! Just going to show you that eventually over time, almost everything becomes nostalgic again. I saw some YouTube videos where people were like kind of reminiscing fondly about what did they call that graphical, oh my god, what did they call that graphical style? Burst and Bloom or something like that. Of the early 360 era where it was
Brown and Bloom.
What's that?
Brown and Bloom.
Brown and Bloom. That's it. And people were like, being like, you know, I kind of miss that. You know, the Gears of War style where everything has like, it all had a nice color palette and blah blah blah. I'm like,
Yeah, people are complaining about like colors in games. I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah. So it just goes to show you, eventually everything becomes nostalgic.
Especially 7th Gen was full of like Brown and Bloom games that ran at like 20 frames per second. It was like such a dull and like just creatively bankrupt era, and people are like, oh, I miss that. I miss it so much.
I will say it's very interesting because I don't want to say we grew up during the era, because we really grew up during the 5th gen, which is PS1 and N64. And we're more like I was like a teenager during the PS2 era, the 6th gen. But most people's general sentiment is that the 6th gen is the best gen. It like maybe not the best system. You know, people might pick PS1 or SNES or PS2. But in general, and it's not just millennials that are like, oh, 6th gen, like a lot of like kids who never grew up with it are picking up a PS2 and being like, yeah, this is the best. So it's really interesting to have lived through that originally and then see people be like, actually, yeah, this was the best generation, you know. Especially with all the things you can do with...
So we're doing the very classic overused cliche of if you don't look at the guy. Oh, I guess it... Oh, God. That scared me. If you don't look at it, it follows you. Even though it's used in a million things.
I like this,
I think it's a cool gimmick.
I like this. Especially, it moves pretty damn fast, too. Like, it's going to be in this room with you. Also, just the noise it makes. Very cool. But yeah, that's very interesting to me, that the 6th gen is so absolutely...
Jesus Christ!
Absolutely loved. Although, to be fair, I'm waiting for devs to go back to the time of being like, oh, I didn't realize there was a second.
There's like 4 of them now. Oh, did Ferris play the Poppy Playtime games? Like the horror mascot games that came out recently? I know they did this exact gimmick in
Okay, yeah, that's
Poppy
right.
Playtime Chapter 3, I think.
Oh my god. I don't think we played Chapter 3. We got 1 and 2, and they played it. It was actually pretty cool because Luna wanted to play it, but she's too young. And, oh my god. Oh my god.
That was so close.
Anyway, Luna wanted to play it, so Ferris had to play it for her. He wasn't super excited about it, but he did it. That was pretty cool. Also, it's a game that can actually play on the PC we have, which is nice.
Aren't you? Do you know where it is?
Yeah, the PC you have, like, as long as you're not playing like brand new AAA games, it's fine.
There's some stuff like kid-centered games that I totally understand. Like, I don't like Minecraft, but I totally get the appeal. And Fortnite, I don't like it, but I totally get the appeal. But there's one game that's still really popular with kids that I do not understand the appeal at all, and that's Five Nights at Freddy's. I have seen it. I've seen Ferris play it a lot. I, honest to God, don't get the appeal. I don't get it.
I think they're just... I do think that the mascots, like Freddy and like the other characters, are really well designed. In terms of being like merchandise, I guess. I don't know much about Five Nights at Freddy's, but I know that there's like, at least for the first little bit, there's a lot of cryptic lore that people were obsessed with. And that's how like Game Theory, like the YouTube channel, made $1 billion off of little kids watching lore theory videos.
Makes sense.
But yeah, it is pretty weird.
Just in terms of the gameplay, I'm just like...
I don't think kids like it for the gameplay. I get that, but like, there has to be some gameplay to it. I think a lot of people, like 99% of that fan base, just watch like Markiplier, like LPs. They never played the games.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
I think a lot of mascot horror is exactly like that, where the game sales are probably like, they're not surprisingly low, because I mean 100 million people watch those YouTube videos. But it's probably a very small percentage compared to like how many views those YouTubers get from those games.
Yeah.
But I think it's mostly just from like...
I mean, they made a damn movie for it.
Yeah, it's exposure and like selling merchandise, but I bet like the actual game sales are like a very small amount of the profit and caring about those games.
Oddly, I legitimately do not remember this at all.
It's kind of neat.
It is neat, yeah. It's like a big set piece kind of thing.
It's something different. Kind of feels like it's like I'm playing Little Nightmares or something.
Yeah.
They see me, I'm toast.
That third game is like slowly becoming vaporware. Like, it's like a kind of a AA, title, and it's like, it has been slated for release for so long.
You know what's the weirdest game to become like multi-year vaporware? The Hollow Knight sequel, Silk Song.
Yeah, I've seen a lot on that.
That game has been in development hell for like 5 years.
Right.
And it's like, why? It's like a 2D platformer. What's so hard about making it?
I will put Hollow Knight as probably top 10 most overrated games in the past like 10 years. That's not saying, I want to be clear, that's not saying I didn't like it. I played it,
I played it and beat it. I didn't do the DLCs. I thought it was good, but yes.
I thought it was good.
People
Absolutely.
that say that's like a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, I don't get it.
I thought a lot of the... my favorite part about Metroidvania games is the map exploration, and I actually thought the map exploration was, like, pretty lacking. Just because there's a lot of areas that, like, are kind of vacuous and just hard to get to and all this nonsense. You know what I mean? Like Symphony of the Night or a lot of the Castlevania games, the exploration's usually really just on point. And obviously the Hollow Knight, I get it. A lot of the appeal of that is the 2D Dark Souls-ish style, whatever.
Yeah, and it's very Dark Souls because it's like boss fight centric, and it's... I don't know about you, but when I played the game, I got stuck on a couple bosses where I probably tried like a one singular boss like 30, 40 times.
I also played on like... I don't know if they have different difficulties, but I definitely played on normal if that is the
I might have
case.
just sucked, but I thought that game was kind of hard.
Oh
at
yeah,
times.
for sure. But yeah, that is really weird. Like yeah, the first one, pretty big game, obviously pretty big map, lots going on. But like they made a ton of money. So they definitely could hire like more staff. And you know that the second game is going to sell gangbusters, so it's like, why is it taking like
Yeah,
years
apparently
and years?
the people that make Hollow Knight is Team Cherry, and apparently it's still only 3 people. So a lot of people theorize that it's just like, you know, series bloat, people like them like trying to make like this ridiculous game, even though it's supposed to just be like a DLC or like kind of a smaller standalone game.
Yeah, almost like an expansion kind of thing.
And it's probably just vaporware because they're just like, we gotta make this perfect.
I don't get it. They had to make millions and millions of dollars off Hollow Knight. I mean, it got like physical releases. It got
That's probably
Game of
also
the
why
Year.
they're not like...
Well, not Game of the Year, but you know, accolades.
The fact that it made millions of dollars is probably also why that they're not super interested in like rushing it out, because they can just... It's a 3-man dev team. They can just sit on the first game's profits forever.
And I'm sure it still sells pretty well, the first one. So.
Oh, hi.
It reminds me, although it's only similar in terms of being vaporware.
Hurry up.
It reminds me of Barkley, Shut Up and Jam Gaiden, and then the second one.
That's a good comparison, because I think that Chef Boyardee got like super into like featured creep and just adding a million things all the time, and it just got way too bloated, and at a point they're just like, this is such a mess, and they just canceled the entire thing.
When they were like, hey, it's like a little bit more action oriented, and the battles are kind of like Chrono Trigger, I was like, good, release it. And they were like, yeah, but it's been years, I forget, but they were like, yeah, but we're gonna add this and this and this, and
we're
I was
gonna
like,
add
no.
fishing and a persistent clock feature.
And it's like, no, just release it the way it is. That sounds awesome.
But it really shoots them in the foot, because whatever they release, it's like no matter what happens, because it took so long, with 5 years extra, it's like no matter what they release, it's going to disappoint people.
Right.
Because it's just like, it's a 2D action game. It's like, what could they possibly add to justify 5 years of dev time?
Well, that's why, now this is...
That's also why I'm keeping expectations low for Metroid Prime 4. I'm
Makes
sure it's going to be a
sense,
good game, but that game has been
you
developed...
can't reach the expectations.
Yeah, and like that game restarted development like after a couple years. Apparently, like Bandai started the first dev team, and then they scrapped everything. So even though like the current like dev or the Retro Studios build is like 5 years long, there's no way it's going to be some masterpiece game. It's just going to be another Metroid Prime game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's... Now, I know this is a completely different media, so it doesn't follow the exact same way, but that's why when I was finishing up my book that came out, what was it, like 2022, I was like, okay, I tend to want to be like anal and editing all this stuff and revising all this stuff, so I made a deal with myself where I was like, the only editing that's going to be done is spelling and grammar. So when you read back on it, if there's punctuation or grammar or whatever, that will be changed. But I made a deal with myself never to be like, what if you change this whole thing and add all this? I was like, nope, I'm just going to write it as I feel it in my head. And if I get to a point where I think I wrote myself into a corner, instead of going back and being like, well, how can I start over? Being like, no, you got yourself in this situation, how can you get yourself out? And that's how I did it. So it's obviously it's different for like a big $100 or $10 million video game, but in a lot of ways you could look at it the same way, you know? Like the Captain America, the new Captain America is coming out next month. And that movie is said to have literally a $400 million budget because they did reshoots on it at least 3 times. And it's not small reshoots. Like, they did, like, whole... get everyone back, months and months of filming, shooting. And it's like, the fact that Marvel and Disney is so big, they have the ability to be like, oh, bring him back, we'll put this into it. If it was a smaller studio, they'd be like, no, we have to figure out what we did wrong and fix it in editing or fix it in small stuff. They wouldn't have the ability to completely redo it, you know? So if you hear that movie makes $300 million worldwide, just know that they lost a ton of.
I mean, they always say that whatever the movie budget is, they have to make 2.5 times that to break even. So that movie legitimately has to make $1 billion to make $0.
Their only hope is that it does super well in like China and India.
There's no way.
And
There's just no way.
It's not, and there's a couple reasons that I won't go into, but it's not, especially in China.
Party?
She just cannot get enough.
What's that voice?
So this entire conceit of this story about like Rose kind of being infatuated with her dad that she never knew is very strange because like at the end of Village, you know, Mia's fine, she's gonna raise Rose, but it's like, what happened there? Like, did Rose and Mia have such a bad like upbringing that like she doesn't even live with Mia anymore? Why is she obsessed with her dad that she never met? Like, was Mia that bad of a mom? It makes Mia seem like such an awful parent. And she's not even present in this DLC. It's very strange.
Upstairs?
No, I get what you're saying. I guess,
And I think they probably didn't intend for that to be what I take from this. They probably just are just like, oh, Ethan died for Rose.
Okay.
And then 18 years later, it's sort of just like an epilogue for him, being like, Rose being like, oh, I'm thankful for my dad saving me.
I don't know,
But the fact that she doesn't even live with Mia, it's so weird.
That is weird. I will say, I understand why she, like, looks at Ethan as, like, such a ridiculous, like, godlike, hero-like figure. Like, imagine if your, like, dad was Tom Brady, and he, like, died before you got to know him, and every single person you ever met was like, your dad was just the best. Your dad was a hero. Your dad was amazing. You would, like, either kind of grow to resent him, the fact that he died, or you would, like, start to, like, just literally idolize him. Because you don't deal with him as a human being where he gets, like, angry or mad or has an off day or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
you don't see their actual human parts. People are going to say the nice things about him, like Ethan saved this whole village and blah, blah, blah.
And I would definitely say that the reasonable option would definitely be for Rose to resent her dad, because the entire reason why she's going through this hell is that she wants to get rid of her weird mold powers that she got from her dad and Mia. So if I was Rose, I'd be like, oh, I grew up a horrible life because my dumb dad had dumb powers. I hate him. But that's not how they wanted to do this story.
Despite Mia being part of Seven and Village, she never had mold stuff, right?
Mia was infected with the mold.
Oh, but you gave her the thing.
And you give her but she's like...
The antidote in Seven.
Yeah, I guess she doesn't have any mold powers, but she's definitely been altered in some way.
When you're troubled or worried, and tell you that everything's gonna be alright. You are my precious Rose. Never forget that. Dad.
No one loves you.
Remember?
No.
Hey, Evelyn.
Michael, help! Michael!
Literally, does it even make any sense? Like, why would Evelyn, even if it was like an astral projection kind of thing?
The Megabyte Seat records all of its encounters in its
Oh, that's right.
in its data bank, so Evelyn would definitely be here. It makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah, I forgot about that. The Megamycete just kind of, like, does what it wants. It does have rules, but it just seems like it's, like, literally otherworldly.
Yeah, it just, like, records everything that it encounters and, like, absorbs.
Don't have the purified
Again,
crystal.
I don't know where the perfect crystal came from or why the Megamycete has it in it. I made this joke last time, but it's like putting kryptonite in Superman's kidney.
For that.
I don't know why it exists in the Megamycete, but whatever.
It's that meme, trust no one, not even yourself.
Can't trust anyone. Why are you doing this? No one loves you. And when you're dead, no one will care.
Spooky little girl scares me.
I have this great idea for a horror film. You ready for this? All right.
I came first.
Do you know something that's like generally considered not scary is like little girls, right? Here, follow me here. What if we have a little girl, but she's like scary, and she stands there with hair in her eyes, and she's wearing black.
And she like stands in like a poorly lit hallway, and she's just kind of standing there, and you're like little girl.
Oh,
What's
I
going
don't
on?
have to be afraid of this. Blah!
And then all of a sudden it goes to a big jump scare.
Yup. You know who did it best? Kubrick in The Shining, because those two little girls were like not even in a dimly lit hallway,
So many friends, and it's never enough.
and they it wasn't even a jump scare.
Where do you
It was just, hey, it's twins.
Yeah, that's a good one for sure.
Twins are. I'm sorry for twins out there, but inherently, if twins act the exact same, it is pretty. I don't want to say odd, but it's like
Oh.
it's kind of a weird feeling to be like, oh, like it's different if twins are like, I dress like this and I dress like this, but if they're like, hey, we dress and talk the same, it's like
I had a
odd.
pair of twins that were in the same grade as me and were sometimes in my classes. I think they were with me in one of my elementary school years, and I could never tell them apart ever.
See, if I was a twin, I would like go to the other twin and be like, all right, how are we gonna like look different? Like, do you want long hair? Do I want short hair? When you're older, do you want a mustache? I'll grow a beard. You know what I mean? Like, and I understand there would still be problems. But like you could be like, no, I'm Spencer. I'm the one with the beard. The other twin, he's clean shaven. So at least it's like something.
That little girl?
Yeah, you'd think so.
Also,
Yeah.
sometimes parents don't help it. Like,
Yeah, I was about to.
there was a set of twins in my grade, and they both had names that start with J. Like, it was like Jared and like John or something like that.
Mine were
and
two.
I'm like, what?
Mine were two girls, and I can't remember their names. I'm so bad at remembering names, but I remember that they were like kind of similar-ish. So it's like, yeah, that helps.
It would be like Becky